Moi, j'ai fait des études dans les sciences sociales et par exemple, tout ce qui est études interculturelles. En France, c'est nié. Autant en Grande-Bretagne, au Canada, même en Belgique, on a des études sur l'interculturel. En France, dans une université, l'interculturel, c'est négligé et on n'en parle pas beaucoup. Donc il y a cette histoire coloniale qui n'est pas suffisamment pensée, étudiée, mise en débat. Et je pense que c'est vraiment un effort que l'on doit faire si on veut avancer sur ce travail antiraciste, parce que c'est là que ça se joue. Moi, je quand même voudrais rappeler que le code de l'indigénat en Algérie, alors que même quand la France, donc après l'après-guerre, a eu un mouvement avec le Conseil national de la résistance, par exemple, qui a porté un projet qu'on appelait les Jours heureux, avec la sécurité sociale qui a été mise en place, etc. À l'époque, la colonisation était encore présente en Algérie et par exemple la sécurité sociale n'était pas offerte aux indigènes, so-called indigènes. Donc il y a vraiment quelque chose qui se joue qui n'est pas suffisamment travaillé et je pense que les études postcoloniales doivent être plus poussées. Par ailleurs, on ne peut pas parler du racisme et des discriminations sans croiser cette question, ces réflexions, sans les croiser avec la question sociale. Parce que les immigrés sont, mon père était ouvrier, voilà. Donc les immigrants postcoloniaux sont dans des classes sociales très basses et donc ce qui se croise, c'est à la fois ce racisme lié à l'histoire postcoloniale et le fait que les personnes issues des immigrations sont des classes sociales faibles et donc n'ont pas accès fortement aux études universitaires, aux emplois élevés, enfin, et ça se croise et je pense qu'il faut vraiment croiser les deux pour avancer sur ces questions. Bon, ce qui me frappe quand même ici au Parlement, c'est qu'on a peu de représentants, on est quand même minoritaire des minorités, j'allais dire. Donc ça pose quand même question. Alors, il y a aussi le fait que si on soit si peu, c'est que comme je disais, ayant pas forcément beaucoup de personnes, des minorités, qui se sentent légitimes ou qui se sentent suffisamment costaud pour aller, parce que bon, c'est un engagement fort, la vie est bousculée quand on devient député, voilà. Donc est-ce que les personnes sont prêtes à y aller? Il y a aussi cette question-là. Est-ce qu'elles se sentent légitimes à y aller? Est-ce qu'elles se sentent suffisamment armées pour y aller? Alors peut-être qu'il y a aussi ce travail à faire d'avoir un travail politique, moi je dirais politique, de conscientisation des jeunes notamment pour ces questions-là et de dire vous avez le droit d'y aller, c'est possible et on peut travailler ensemble pour former et pour pouvoir construire une vision et aller en politique, pouvoir prendre des mandats électifs.
You both mentioned the fact that the European Parliament had a very low level of ethnic minorities within the House. So, what do you think the European Parliament itself could do in this context, and also what are your respective parties doing in this respect to try and improve the situation?
I mean, all the available evidence in the post-war period, and there's not much of it, comes from the United States probably, and from countries that have developed policies. You can't change anything unless you understand that you have to have policies that work. And ENAR has progressed this in a and it's sometimes seen as an Anglo-American kind of thing. The only reason for that is because it's only been really tried in an Anglo-American context. Other countries have tried it, but if you take the example of France, there's very little ethnic monitoring. In the United Kingdom now, it's compulsory to have ethnic monitoring. Positive action it's illegal not to have positive action. Positive action is different from positive discrimination, but positive discrimination exists in gender. Now, you know, you can talk about all sorts of sophisticated notions of representation, and there are many ways of increasing representation, encouraging people and having role models and so on. But none of these actually work in the end. And the evidence is here in the European Parliament, where it was probably fashionable 10 years or 15 years ago to have some more ethnic minority representatives. Many of them came from NGO backgrounds, are well known. But that's not the aim. The aim is a representative democracy. That's the aim. And for that, you need, first of all, to admit that there is a problem, as there was with gender. Then you have the policies. Now, in the European Parliament, it's a fantastic example where all the staff and the representatives are almost entirely white. If you look around, you simply, I mean, this is in one of the most ethnically diverse cities in Europe, Brussels. And there is no one, as we look around, while we've been discussing in this lovely open studio, I wanted to see if I could see one person who's from an ethnic minority, and I haven't seen one in all the time we've been speaking, and people have been walking around. So the problem is here, there is no database at all. Therefore, and this is the important thing, when you do the exams for coming into this place, nobody measures what's happening. So there is no notion of going to different communities or different schools, finding out why it is that talented people who are not white somehow don't get here, and why is it that the very small number of ethnic minorities who have worked here disappear. Why are they never promoted? Why do they go? And this is the real, you know, you can talk about all sorts of sophisticated notions of representation, but this is the way to do it. Why do we know this? Because it's been done on gender. Now, the difference with us is that we're not 51% of the population. So this is used as an excuse by the policymakers and the managers and the political bosses to not do anything. And I think unless, for example, organisations like ENA are working with people like us, but alliances with other people, unless we can try and make the breakthrough, it's going to be difficult. And I regard this kind of Republican model as a real problem, because everyone confuses merit with representation. You know, you can be white and be a very bad politician and have little merit, and you can be black and be a very poor politician. People misunderstand the notion of merit and representation. Representative democracy, you hope that you will have a representation of ethnic minorities and all different kinds of people, women and people with disabilities and gay MPs and so on, but you also hope that they will be of sufficient merit. But they're not the same thing. And this is where I think the elite have really managed to suppress ethnic minority representation by a very clever mechanism, which is to focus mainly on gender, first of all, which produces no, as I said, no black women or ethnic minority women. In Britain, every single all-women shortlist, without exception, since the creation, the legislation on all-women shortlists, has produced not one ethnic minority woman. Even in places like London, where the population is 9 million, and probably the highest density of women of ethnic backgrounds, not one. And this is the kind of mechanism that needs to be explored. Here it's very easy. If they just start measuring it, publishing it, people will see, that journalists will report that this is happening. In the Guardian newspaper in the United Kingdom a journalist came here to report on something else. And instead he walked around, he's from London, Patrick Barkham, and he walked around for a couple of days, and suddenly he said, there's something strange about this place. You know, he said, it's really strange. And I said, yeah, there's no black people here. And he said, yeah. He said, I'm going to write about this. Because why is the European Parliament of the whole of Europe representing Paris, Berlin, London, Brussels, you know, all these, Rotterdam? Why is that, you know? And they explored some causes, but ultimately it's because you have to do the policy. And, I think because gender, they've been good here in the Parliament on this issue. And it's part of the institution now. And it's very difficult, and we have to work with ENAR, and we've had an intergroup, for example, I created in '99 with Harlem Desir and others. We created this anti-racism intergroup, all-party group and ENAR has been integral to all of this. And we've really tried, and I think maybe today we should really undertake to try again, particularly on this issue of monitoring. It's 2010 now, maybe people will accept the need to do this, And I just finish one point. We also have very poor quality implementation of anti-discrimination legislation. ENAR produced a report some years ago which showed that you can have anti-discrimination legislation, anti-racist legislation, but more than probably many other types of legislation, unless you have the mechanism to make it work, how you have an enforcement body, you have the media reporting on it regularly. Unless you do this, it's meaningless. So the British Racial Relations Act, even in 1976, so many years ago, when it was implemented, it came with a code of practice and a duty to have positive action. Because if you have an anti-racism piece of legislation, society will do everything to stop it happening, because society will react against it, So.
Moi, je suis assez d'accord sur le fait que la prise de conscience qu'il y a un problème de discrimination, qu'il y a un problème de racisme, n'est pas suffisamment pris en compte dans la société. Et là, il y a un travail à faire. Et alors, par rapport à cette question, il y a la question des statistiques ethniques. En disant, peut-être que si on faisait des statistiques avec l'origine ethnique des personnes qui sont dans les statistiques, peut-être qu'on pourrait mettre en exergue les questions de discrimination, de rejet. Mais le problème, c'est que, à contrario, quand on a cette statistique ethnique, elle peut être instrumentalisée par l'extrême droite et par les racistes, en disant, regardez, on pointe le fait que s'ils sont dans des positions faibles ou etc., c'est de leur faute. Donc c'est vraiment, moi je suis dans un questionnement par rapport à est-ce que on pourrait avoir des statistiques avec l'origine ethnique pour mettre en exergue le problème des discriminations. C'est pas simple.